All right, guys, we got another one of those deep questions for you. So let's see if we can set this one up just right. So if you remember from this last game, when we're looking at the New York Highlanders, a team that I'm not so pleased with in 1908, there's a specific player on this team that just simply is not hitting. He's not hitting anything at all. Let's take a look here at the screen and see if we can find this out. So here are the Highlanders with their most current statistics. Look at their batting, and you'll see that one of the problems that they have is this guy right here, Wid Conroy. Wid Conroy is hitting 125 with a 160 on base percentage and a 125 slugging percentage. I mean, this is a crazy slump. We're only 22 games into the season, but I mean, he's just not hitting anything at all. It does have 9 RBIs. He has 9 hits. All of them are singles, right? He struck out 9 times, walked 3 times. 2 stolen bases, 1 time caught stealing. He has also bunted 8 times. And the reason why he's bunting, of course, is because he's hitting 125, which is part of the issue. So this is the question, right? The question is like this: at what point in time do we decide to have him sit down? And so that's where this is going to become really interesting, is we're going to take a look here at the actual 1908 season and see what we can do to try to figure this out. This really is the question, right? Because if you're playing a replay on your own, you've got to look for players like this, and you got to figure that at some point in time, like, the manager is going to try somebody else because this guy just can't get it done. But Wid Conroy does provide a bit of a problem for us. So let's go take a look here at the screen again, and you can see all those beautiful flowers in the background, at least for now. Here is Wid Conroy, baseball reference. Conroy played for the Highlanders 1903 up through the end of 1908, then wound up with Washington. As you can see here in 08, he had 141 games. Most of those are games that he started, and so he was out there most of the time. This wasn't a guy that they took out a lot. But what did I say? We're about 22 games into it. In real life, in 22, the 22nd game he played was about a week after this one today. So he was out of it for a little while. The Highlanders lost to Cleveland 2-0, and he had a 309 batting average with a 317 on-base percentage and a 407 slugging percentage. Right, you sort of scroll down here, you can see that he does slump. He did slump in late June. This is an interesting study of a player, a guy who's hitting well over 300 and then just slumps as the summer goes and it gets hotter. And then as July comes along and it's the real dog days, he finally brings it back up until the end where he gets a 237 batting average. That slugging percentage that was so high at the beginning of the season ends up fading away. But this poses a problem for us, right? If you're playing this season with real-life lineups turned on, what do you do about Wid Conroy if he has this sort of start to the season? I mean, you got to do something, but you can't because you're putting him in there every single game regardless of what he does, even though you know that that probably wouldn't have been realistic. We've gone over more than enough players who probably had talent, but who, for whatever reason, weren't hitting well enough, and so the coaches decided to just get rid of them, right? I'll show you some of the problems here, right? So we'll take a look first at the batting order, and you can see that Conroy was generally hitting 7th, then 6th as he was doing better, up to 5th, then back down to 7th, and he was hitting 2nd for a while and actually hitting leadoff for a while in the season. This is when he was getting out of that slump and starting to get it going again. And then 2nd, then back to leadoff. In fact, the time when Conroy wasn't playing during 1908 was near the end of the season. I bet if we take a look at him, I haven't done this ahead of time, but I bet if we take a look at his bio page and find 1908, we'll find that there was something that happened that got him away from the team a little bit earlier than expected, right? So yeah, he returned his old position at 3rd, which is where we've been playing with him, and continued to fill well. His batting skills have begun to decline. He was then sold after 1908 to the Washington Senators for $5,000. It doesn't say anything here about exactly when that happened. My guess, though, is looking at this, is that he probably was gone by this time of the season, or as good as gone. I mean, they decided to put Donovan out there at 3rd base instead, and that's part of the problem that we have. Sorry for scrolling through this so fast, but if we go down here and just look at the 3rd baseman, so it's this column right here, Conroy started 117 games, and then it was Moriarty who had 30 starts. Donovan had 5. And you can see where the problem is, right? I mean, we can put Moriarty in there. Yes, we can have Moriarty start at 3rd base and see if they can, if he can break the slump. But, you know, the problem that we have is that we don't have enough players to make like a realistic determination as to who actually could play 3rd base in the eventuality of the guy who's starting there hits like 125 or something like that. Right. Now, I know that the law of averages does fit in after a while, and I know that after a while, you know, Conroy is going to start hitting again, right? But you do have to ask yourself how long you're going to put up with this, right? At some point in time, the reality that's happening in your replay needs to take precedent over the reality that happened in real life. And you have to have the ability to actually be the manager. It's been kind of a theme as of late, right? We've talked a lot about, oh, well, you're reduced to the observer role. You're just watching if you're playing with real life lineups and transactions. I don't think that is true. I do think that there's a lot you can do as the manager, even if the transactions are set up for you. In this particular case, I would argue that at some point in time, we're going to have to take Conroy out of the lineup because he's such a liability and put somebody else in. If that means he doesn't get his numbers, he doesn't get his numbers. But, I mean, he's got to be able to do better than this. You can't hit 100. What if he hits under 100 this season? We're going to have him hit 9th, I mean, it's ridiculous. His defense is not that good. He's not that great of a player. Wid Conroy is interesting for other reasons. He's interesting because of his ties with the 1902 Pirates and with rumors of him being an American League spy and all sorts of other stuff that did follow him throughout his career. We'll talk about that another day. But for right now, the question is, what do you do when your player, your big star player or a guy who's not a star or whatever, underperforms to the level where you just can't put him out there anymore? What is that line? Where do you draw it? And at what point do you say, we're going to cut loose with this guy, we're going to go with somebody else because this isn't working? Anyway, on that note, I'll talk to you later. Bye.